Thanks for joining here. All right. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining in today. Today we're going to be presenting a webinar for you on the Aruba Instant On solution, but we're going to actually be taking a focus on how the solution can be useful in the circumstances we all find ourselves in, which is everybody's sort of working from home now today, right? So hopefully this will be very useful for you. After I do a presentation on the product itself, we also have a demo plan for you from one of our very own John Bussard. He works in our BTC, and we'll be able to put on quite a little show for you on some of the capabilities here of the product. Yep, Joshua Fox here, Technical Account Manager at Ingram Micro, and let's go ahead and get started. So for our agenda, I kind of mentioned this already, but we're really going to start off with just a brief overview of the Instant On product. I've already done some trainings that we do have posted on YouTube that go a little bit more in depth, but I do want to cover a lot of the main features that this product has so that you are aware of them. And then we're going to switch gears and sort of talk about how those features can really help you from the work from home situation. And then we'll go ahead and hand it off to John, and he will be giving us that demo. So first of all, the Instant On access points are a SMB play, sort of a switch from our traditional enterprise instant access points, which were a great solution, but a lot of times they had features that some customers didn't really need. They were kind of above and beyond, and that kind of put them at a price point that was sort of out of reach, if you will, for a lot of those SMBs. And when Aruba thinks of the SMB for this product, it really is the 100 users and less type of environment. So in our portfolio, we have 5 access points. On the left-hand side there, you'll see our 3 indoor-focused APs, the AP11, which is sort of a low-density AP, the AP12, which is about medium density, and the AP15, which is the highest of density for our small businesses. In the middle, you'll see our hospitality AP. This access point actually has a desktop stand, fits on the desktop very nicely. It also has 4 ports on the underneath there, which is really great if you need to hook up, 1 or 2 additional items into the access point. You can also remove the desktop stand, and you can mount this directly into a wall gang. So it's still good for some hospitality environments of the smaller nature. And then lastly, we have the AP17. This is going to be an outdoor rated access point, all the way down to -40 degrees up to 122 Fahrenheit. So it's definitely a temperature rated access point. It is waterproof and a really great addition if you would like to extend that network to an outdoor area, which, as you might imagine, many folks do need that functionality. So let's talk a little bit about the features here for these access points. And first of all, it's very, very simple to use. These access points are plug and play, and they're actually managed through the cloud or through an application that you can download from the Apple or the Google Play Store. Now, the cloud or the app management is completely free. There are no licenses or subscriptions in order to use this management. And this actually gives you a very easy way to manage it, but it also gives you the ability to manage these access points from anywhere, anytime, as well as giving you the ability to manage multiple sites. Now, we do have quite a bit of scalability in these, even though they're meant for that 100 user and so space. Up to 25 access points here can fit into a cluster. We can support up to 8 SSIDs, and you can mix and match any of those models that we talked about before, the AP11, the AP12, the AP15, the AP11D, and the AP17. Now, I will say these do not mix and match with our enterprise line, so any of the instant access points, that's going to be all the access points that have 3 numbers, so your 300 series, like a 305, 325, 505, and so on. So that kind of covers the scalability there. Now, these access points also do have a pretty cool smart mesh feature that you can use. It's a very easy feature to use. It's a one-button touch. I like it, especially in the home, but even a lot of small businesses can use it because it's just a quick button you can press. It picks up the signal of the next access point. They form a link, and you're up and running. It's a very easy and simple way for you to extend your Wi-Fi footprint without having to run an additional cable to the next access point you might be looking to add into the network. These also do support integrated WPA3, which is definitely a step up from WPA2 security standards. So security is always definitely top of mind whenever Aruba is releasing a new product. And lastly here, the support for these is just superior, especially when you look at some of the competition across the landscape there. You're going to get a 24/7 phone support whenever you buy one of these access points. And that is the ability, to call in, and it lasts for 90 days. You get 3 full months of just being able to actually call and talk to a person. And in a lot of these small businesses where you have that set it and forget it type of mentality, that 90 days is really going to be the time when most issues might occur. So definitely a really nice kind of value add here that you have that additional support to back you up. They also include a 1-year warranty. With a 10-day replacement, Aruba pays the shipping both ways. So if something did occur, an access point did fail for whatever reason, you can get a replacement. We also have a great community that I'm a part of, and many of my colleagues are a part of, the Instant On community. This is where all the new release notes are going to be posted. It's where all the updates are going to come. And it's also a great place for you to use as a sounding board. Hey, I'm having X issue, or I want to accomplish X with these access points. How can I do that? And we do suspect that a lot of people using these access points might not be IT professionals. So that's a great place for them to sort of feel out information that they might need. They might be having a hard time planning around how much coverage am I going to get. How many users is this access point going to be able to actually support? What settings should I be setting up? How do I do bandwidth limiting and so on? And those guys are going to be a great way for you to get some of that knowledge that an IT professional would have, but your regular old run-of-the-mill individual might not have. So I mentioned this before, but we do have that mobile application as well as the cloud portal. And I do want to say that they are feature parity between them. So you don't have to go to the cloud for some things and the application for, another. It's very simple to use either one, but, some people like myself really enjoy the web browser. I'm not really an app guy when it comes to managing my network, but there's a lot of people out there that really like to do everything on apps. And because everybody loves apps these days, there is an application for you, so a huge base of our users are probably going to enjoy that feature. Now, I've already talked about the Smart Mesh, but one thing I haven't talked about here is we do have the ability to do automatic updates on these access points. One of the things that we've definitely seen is not everybody always keeps their firmware up to date, and this is especially true if you don't have that IT professional. So these access points will actually auto-update firmware on Sundays at 3 a.m. You can actually change this if you would like. I don't know any businesses that are doing 3 a.m. sales, but if you are and you'd rather do your updates at Friday at 12 p.m., power to you. You can change that on a schedule to whatever date you want. But it is nice that we are getting those automatic updates. Now, we also, I mentioned this, but you can manage multiple networks with this, and you also can set up a secondary account to also manage that network. What I will say about the management of multiple networks is you get a sort of list of networks, so it wouldn't be great in a very widespread company. If you were selling into something like McDonald's or something like that, it might be a little bit tough because you have so many different stores across the U.S. Or outside of the U.S. if you're outside. It would be super difficult to manage that. But when you're looking at the tens of sites, this is a great way to just manage multiple sites for all of your customers. Now, lastly, we do also have guest portal customization here. It is pretty basic, but you can do things like terms and conditions, font, color, and so on. All the stuff you would need for a basic captive portal. You also have the ability to set up social logins. So I have this set up at home. I think it's pretty nifty. I don't get to use it a lot, but you can actually do like Facebook Wi-Fi. So somebody has to come over to your Facebook business page in order to get access to your Wi-Fi. So a lot of small businesses could probably take advantage of a feature like that. So that kind of covers all the basic features. I kind of ran through those a little bit quicker because what I really wanted to focus on today were work from home requirements and how a small solution like this could be super beneficial in a small home. And since everybody's working from home nowadays, there's a very, very big opportunity here for us to educate our end users and so on, and maybe sell them a solution that's actually going to help them in their day-to-day. So what are some of the requirements from working from home? Well, I think it goes without saying we definitely want something that's reliable, but there are certain things that might not cross the everyday user's mind. We definitely want to have a higher tier of security, right? We don't want to just be using the regular old WPA, that press the button on your router and it just automatically gives everything the password that you're looking for, right? We might want a higher level of security since now we're actually sending business sensitive information over Wi-Fi, right? So that higher level of secure access is probably going to be important to us. If you've been on a lot of calls like I've been on recently, you might have a jitter, right? And you have those things happen because you're not prioritizing voice and video. So you want to have the ability to control applications and prioritize the types of traffic that you have. And a normal home user might not have been taking that into account before. Automatic RF optimization is also something that's going to be important. It's going to be important across the board because radio frequencies interfere with each other. But try to think about, that user that might be working in an apartment. He's probably going to, or she's probably going to have many different neighbors all using Wi-Fi, and they might be changing their channels too. So next thing you know, you're interfering with one of your neighbors, and that can cause that same jitter and latency problem. So we definitely want something about the RF optimization. You're probably going to have multiple WLANs in your home and office. You probably don't want to use your regular old just SSID that you're going to that you've been using for Netflix and everything like that to also be checking your emails or sending sensitive information back to corporate. A lot of people probably have children now that were sent home from school. Summer break is just starting up here soon. So we probably also want control over what our children are doing. We want to be able to block content or make sure that they're getting to the sites that we want them to get to. We also want to be able to provide connectivity, maybe for wired devices like printers, phones, security cameras, things like that. We definitely want the ability to stream content, audio, and video at a high fidelity. Mesh could become very important. There might be a lot of homes out there where it's not really feasible to have somebody come in and recable all the access points so that you can actually have all of those in the proper space. So having that one-touch mesh feature could definitely be something very important to you. We want to be able to restrict Wi-Fi access outside of business hours. That could be important. I don't see every home user doing that, but let's say that you are just getting back into working from home, or this is your first time working from home. And maybe you want the ability to set up a schedule for yourself at 6 o'clock. That's when I'm stopping work because that's the time I would have left the office, right? So you can go in there and create a rule. It shuts off that Wi-Fi at that time, and now you're back on that schedule. The business Wi-Fi isn't on when it's not supposed to be. You're not getting those notifications when you're not supposed to be getting them. And then lastly, we kind of probably want minimal hardware, right? Now, some of the tech guys here might actually have a rack at home with some equipment in it, but a lot of users really don't. So we definitely want to keep the hardware footprint as low as possible. So let's go into a little bit more in depth then on some of the features that we have on the Instant On that can really address some of those concerns that we've just kind of covered. And one is those parental controls, right? And this actually kind of goes into everything on your quality of service, making sure that the applications that you're trying to get to have high fidelity, making sure that voice works properly, controlling what websites people can get to, and so on. So with these Instant On access points, we do have the ability to have visibility into the application or website categories that somebody might be going to. And then we can block those traffic types based on an SSID. Example on this is, I might have my child here, and maybe he's supposed to be going to school. I could set up a rule that, during X time, he's getting very low bandwidth on, YouTube or something like that. Or maybe I just cut off his Facebook, but he could still get to the site that he needs to get the education streaming that the school might be offering, right? And I can also set up those same controls for any of the business applications that I'm using, right? So having the ability to have that deep packet inspection and create controls over the types of traffic is something that could be very attractive to someone that is all of a sudden thrust into a situation where they need to have that high fidelity for their applications. So again, we actually automatically prioritize the voice and video traffic. So there isn't anything specific you're going to have to configure around that, which is definitely a very nice thing. So really, all you're going to have to be doing is, that content filter, don't go here, and so on, right? Now, lastly, we do have the ability to bandwidth limit also around a time of day, which could also be very important. Like I mentioned, we might be bandwidth limiting certain applications that we don't want people on, but it's 8 o'clock at night. Let's all sit down as a family and watch a movie together. Well, I don't want to have to go in and, rechange something after the workday's over so I can actually get that bandwidth. So I could have set that up a time of day. My work SSID shuts off. I come down, I sit down, and I'm able to watch a movie with my family. So we also have some enhanced security here. I did mention that we are on a higher level of WAP3 instead of WPA2. So definitely a little bit better of a security standard there. And I actually have a funny anecdote because one of my buddies, he actually stole the password from his neighbor and then started leeching off their Wi-Fi. He actually fixed their Wi-Fi too because they had a bunch of bad configurations, so he increased their performance. But it just goes to show that with WPA2, you don't really have to sit there and do a brute force all the time. You can actually take down the block of code and then take that offline and break it, and then you can have access to somebody's home network, right? With WPA3, you can only be breaking into a network at the time of a key exchange, so you have to do it real time, which is infinitely harder for a hacker, and that makes it to where that person literally has to be right there next to you to take your stuff while you're going and transmitting live. So that enhanced security standard is definitely a big help. Probably more helpful, though, is client blocking. Maybe it's time to ground little Johnny because he failed that test or something like that, right? So now you don't want him on the PlayStation or you don't want him on the Xbox. Well, block the client. Now he can't go to that thing that you said that you don't want him to go to. And then maybe once the grounding's over, unblock it. Or maybe you see a device that you don't recognize that's on your network for whatever reason. We don't want that. Let's just go block that device. So the ability to quickly see what clients are connected and block those clients from an easy-to-use dashboard is just another thing that a home user could definitely take advantage of. This is nice is that we also have enterprise-grade RF. Very easy to set up these access points, but I mentioned this before. We're able to scan the airwaves and then change our channels so that we're always on a channel that is not overlapping with another channel. Think about if you've ever been driving and you're listening to, an FM radio station and you're on like 107 or something like that, and as you're driving between cities, you're listening to two different radio stations at the same time. You don't really know what you're listening to and you're not having a good experience. Well, the same thing happens in Wi-Fi, and we can automatically see if we're using a channel that somebody else is using and then switch to one that they're not using so that we actually have clear, consistent transfer of information. So that's just a really dynamic way for us to change those channels, but we can also do that for our mesh links. And if you're looking here at the picture, this is a good example of something I kind of touched on before, where we might not have the ability to drill holes in the walls and run cables to all the different access points. So now in this situation, we have one access point that's wired, and now we're meshing those additional access points. The whole house has coverage, and we're still able to take advantage of all the features I've talked about before with our quality of service applications and blocking traffic and clients and so on. All right, so we also have a cool new functionality. This is a little bit more recent, but we gave these access points the ability to be deployed in router mode. And basically what that does is takes the access point, is still able to provide wireless and so on, but now it can hand out some IP addresses and be used as a router. It's also going to be able to provide basic firewall between users, which is definitely always a big plus. You don't want your guest users, regular users, whatever it might be, sending unencrypted traffic and maybe cross-talking, or somebody's able to pick up somebody's payment information or whatever you don't want any of that, right? So having that basic inbuilt firewall between users is definitely a big plus. And again, if you don't want to be out there buying that new Netgear router or something, and then you get stuck with the situation where if you want to extend your wireless footprint, you can't because you have a wireless router instead of access points working as one singular wireless LAN. So putting this into a router mode really makes it easy for you to take advantage of the fact that it is an enterprise access point, and you can do things like this. So I can set this up, connect it directly to my modem, create all the rules that I want, my office SSID, my home SSID, and so on, and then link that to another access point. I have a mesh, and I have one wireless network that I'm looking at instead of multiple wireless networks like I would if I was doing something like a range extender or tying an access point off of a router access point combo. So definitely a little bit better, a little bit more flexible of a solution, and something I think a lot of people that really were never planning to have to work off of solely Wi-Fi are now finding themselves having to, and this could definitely be a good play for those guys. So I just want to end this off here and talk a little bit about some of the warranty and support options. So I did mention that the access points do just come with that 1-year warranty, and they do have the 90 days of phone support. But if you ever find yourself in a situation where you kind of are talking to somebody that wants more peace of mind, they would like that ability to call in past the 90 days, that's where this Foundation Care kind of comes in. It's a warranty uplift, and it basically brings you up to 3 years. So you really have a nice kind of way to jump up there. What's also nice about this is that you can apply that one SKU to any of the access points. So it's not like you're going to be purchasing, different supports for each different model. This is just one type of support for the entire portfolio in case you need it. All right, guys, that concludes it here for my part of the presentation. I am going to hand this off to my counterpart, Mr. John Bussard. John, are you still here with us?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you just fine. Are you able to grab the screen there?
Let me see. I cannot.
I think I might have to assign presenter rights to you. Give me one moment here.
Oh, here, maybe I can do it now. Here we go. Oops. Try that again. All right, can you guys see my desktop?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm John Bussard. I'm an HPE Business Transformation Center engineer out of our Buffalo Ingram office. I support HPE servers, storage, blade systems, networking technology, you name it from HPE. I provide demonstrations as well as proof of concept capabilities. What I'm going to do is I'm going to extend on to Joshua Fox's nice presentation and show you the actual interface as to how to manage one of these Instant On solutions. And there's really two different ways that you can manage it. So I'm logged into the web portal up here. So this is the web portal page. I'm also screencasting my my phone over here. So I'll try to go between the two of these type of scenarios and show you each of these configurations just so you get a sense. It should be pretty close as far as the options you get, looking whether you're working on the web or whether you're working on the application for your mobile phone. There are little differences just due to screen size and things like that, and you'll kind of see that as we kind of go through that. I'm also going to give you, add on to Joshua's discussion around remote access. I'm going to point out different things in this environment that will allow you to be able to, maybe have a conversation with your customers about remote access. And to kind of talk a little bit about how kind of the interface is the same between the web interface as well as the client. We could start off in clients. We can see this one client over here, and if I go inside the phone, I can go in, I can see this one client. I can dig into this client. All right, I can see some of the information about the client. I can tell it's a Windows client. I can tell our connection is pretty good. If I click down here, all right, we can see what type of applications. Wait a minute. This guy's doing a lot of web streaming, so if this guy was a home user, right away I'd wonder what they were doing, if they're kind of wasting my corporate time and not doing anything product related. But at any rate, I can see what this user's doing. And again, to see that inside the web interface, it's a little bit different, but again, it's the same type of context, just a little bit different look and view. I didn't have to burrow in to kind of see this kind of client. And this is a client that I've got connected. And it's actually this client that's actually back in the office. I should mention that this is all remote as well. And I would also say that for if you're doing remote access, certainly there are better options that are out there. Certainly an Aruba wrap, a remote access point, and a controller would be a great solution. Maybe toss a little bit of ClearPass on there. But obviously there's complexity, cost, and speed that's associated with that. If you have customers that are doing the maybe an SMB, Instant On might be a good solution for them as far as managing it. Now, the way you'll manage them is each, I'd say, house or each access point or set of access points you have would be under a site. And I have one site here that I'm managing. And again, I'm remote to this site. This is inside our business transformation center. We can't walk into the facility now due to COVID-19. But I can manage that. And again, I have a remote access to a client. And this client can actually connect, and they're getting wireless access to this system. Now, the way you would set up another secondary site or somebody else, so if you're going to send an access point home with another user, what you do is you'd go under here and you'd set up a new site, and it would show up under this context. And if I click on set up a new site, you're going to see that I'll be able to start going through. I'm not going to go through all these prompts. You can see some of the gateway stuff that Joshua is kind of talking about here. All right, but all you really need to be able to set this up is a serial number, so you can have them do that remotely if you want, or you can get the serial number in here, plug this into the process, and then add that on if you wanted to. But that's how you'll manage multiple sites. So again, you're not going to manage hundreds of sites, but again, if you got the S and SMB, you got a handful of people out there, this might be a good way to be able to manage remote sites from a centralized location. So we were looking in the client context. Let's actually look inside the network context. So I can see that I've got this one Instant On network, and this is a new wired network that pops up now and again. That's up there, and as a matter of fact, a little bit of a difference from the remote client. It doesn't show up. It's really just an administrative network, and once in a while it'll pop up in the web interface. It's usually a little bit slower. Usually these interfaces are kind of one-to-one with each other, but this is just an administrative default type of wired network that they have set up. But if I burrow in here, all right, we can see this one Instant On network. Maybe this is the production network that I'm using for the clients at the remote site. I could do that over here as well. We can get a little bit of information. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a SSID, or what that is a wireless network. That'd be one of these things that we see over here, like if we're looking inside Windows. So let's go back and let's do that. So I'm going to click Add. We'll start this from the web interface. All right, and I've got some options. I could select a guest network if I wanted to. So maybe I want users to come in and connect, and I don't want to necessarily have them worry about, or maybe the kids are all home now. Maybe I want to give them guest access to the environment. So I could certainly click on that. Actually, here, we'll go over here into the remote access point. I'm going to click on this button down here, right? And then we should see, I'll click on guest network up here. All right, now I can choose a portal. I can choose a password. It can be open. I don't know why anybody would ever do open it, but I can customize this portal if I want to. If I click on this, this is what they'll have to log into, and in this case, we'll just have to accept, and they'll get connected to the network. And I do different things. Like if I click on the Ingram logo up here, I can click again. I can select any one of the pictures on my phone, so I can certainly change this to the HP image if I felt like it, right, and do things like that. So I have the ability to be able to create wireless networks off that interface. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to continue on with creating a general type of wireless network, which is going to be an employee network. Here I'm going to give it a name. We'll just call it New Network. All right, and then again, this will be what we'll see over here. All right, and I'm going to leave it as an employee network. An important thing to notice, you could set up radius if you want to, and in Aruba's world, this would be a ClearPass system. So we're sending users home with their desktops and their laptops. If we want to make sure that the only thing that they're connecting to this wireless network is their laptop or desktop, make sure they're only authenticating through their Active Directory credentials, and it's got the certificate from the Active Directory. Then we can set up a radius server if we wanted to. So in this level of product, this is a pretty powerful utility. So again, we can make sure that device that we sent them home is the device. They're not putting their credentials into their laptop, or they're putting their credentials into their home PC. They have to actually use the PC that you sent them home with in order to be able to do their remote work. So we have the ability to do that here. I'm just going to set up a password for this guy here, though. So let me do that real quick. All right, and then we're going to move over to options. So this might be important as well as over here, bandwidth. So I would say this might be important. So I would say you're going to kind of create a network for the user when they go home for production, something that maybe they're going to have to log in through Radius, or something that's a little bit more locked down. You want to isolate that. But the kids are home as well, so they're going to want to be able to surf on the web, do Netflix, Xbox 3, their Xbox systems and things like that, right? But one of the things that's important about that is we don't want what the kids are doing or what everybody else is on the network doing affect what we're trying to do for our production environments. Like, certainly I want to be able to get to work so I can bring home the bacon, and I don't want to end up in the unemployment line or anything like that, right? So I might want to limit the bandwidth, right, that the kids can use or anybody else inside the environment can use. And that's what I can do here with this bandwidth limit, right? I always make sure that they're not using up the entire bandwidth, right, and I have enough in order to be able to do my important work from home if I wanted to. So I can limit bandwidth usage over here. There's some IP, some radio configurations that we can do. Next, we can do scheduling. So right now, I don't have any scheduling kind of set up. All right, so I could turn on scheduling, and I could pick the days of the week that somebody works. So certainly, if somebody is an hourly employee, they can only, there are regulatory compliances around that. They can only really work between certain hours, the hours that you assign them, on certain days. So I have the ability to do that. So far, this guy can only log in through Monday through Friday, and I can make them active between 9 and 5 o'clock if I wanted to, right? And that was the hours they had to be in at work to do their job, as if they were in the office, and this SSID will be up during that time. Or I could spin this around. Maybe I've got the kids again, they're home, and they're playing with their Xboxes and their Netflix and things like that. 9 o'clock, it's time to go to bed, right? I could set this for 9 o'clock, so the wireless goes down at 9 o'clock, and they have to go to bed or do something else at that time. So we have scheduling. So some other things to be aware of. Let's see what else we got in here. Network access. So I could certainly restrict access if I wanted to certain places. Right. So again, if this is a production network, they can only go to these places. I'm only allowing them to get to these addresses that are out there. Right. I have the ability, and I'm going to show you the application context in another frame. So let me cancel out of this. Go back. Oh, actually, you know what? I wanted to create an SSID real quick. Let me do this real quick. New network. I want to show you something else. 1 second here. We'll click save. All right, so now I got this new network created over here, and it's available inside the environment. All right, so let's go back to the desktop. So certainly we can see 2 networks are active here. We can also see the 2 networks are active here. I can go into this context. You can see so it's in sync between the web interface as well as what's inside the mobile device. So now we're going to go down to applications real quick. We're going to see what people are doing on our network. We can see how what type of applications they're streaming. A lot of streaming that's going on. Utilities, productivity applications are happening. If I click on the applications tab, we can see all the individual applications that are out there. Maybe, right, looks like somebody's doing some social networking. Right, I can expand on that. I can see my 2 networks. Maybe I don't want this guy, this network, to be allowed access to social networks. Again, this allows us to be able to limit things down. I can also see traffic utilization per client. All right, so I have the ability. I can actually see the type of traffic that's happening, or the type of websites that they are going to. Right, I can look under productivity over here. Right, we can see this somebody's been productive. We see some Office 365, some Google accounts. Again, I can pick and choose who has access to that inside this context. Right, and again, let's go down to social networking. I want to make sure that's still enabled. All right, so I have the ability to turn off different application categories in the environment. Again, if we look at the mobile phone, we can go back over here. Right, I can go down to the mobile view, and again, I could see all the different applications and their type of usage. And again, if I go into productivity, I can see who's using what. Right, and then again, I can block or add access. So again, we are seeing similar views, whether I'm using the client, whether I'm using the mobile app, or whether I'm using the remote app. Now, something else I want to show you right now is right now, this is the access point I have set up. Again, that's back inside our Business Transformation Center. Again, I could do this for your customer, for your end user if you wanted to. We can dig in a little bit on this access point if you wanted to. Here's another view of it. Get some great information about this access point. A lot of good reporting, right? And then, of course, we could see that over here. Now, all of us probably have those dead spots within our house. You all know them. You hate them that are out there. Certainly, when we're setting up a home office, we don't necessarily get to choose where we're setting up our home office, right? Sometimes we're just using some available space that we have. Maybe it doesn't have the most optimal wireless signal, right? In the case of Aruba Instant On, I have the ability to be able to extend my wireless. And again, I don't have the ability necessarily to drag a cable over into that office to hook up an access point. What you can is repeat a signal from one access point to another. So I can take an access point, they call it meshing. So I can take an access point, get it meshed with my existing wireless, and then move it someplace a little bit closer to where I'm having a bad signal and place that down. As long as it's got power, it's going to come up. It's going to repeat the signal, the wireless signal, into the area which has bad access, right? So that's a meshing type of technology. We can do that real quick, right? If I go down here, I'll do this on the mobile app, actually. Let's do that over here. All right, so I got this, again, to start off over here. We'll go over here into online devices online. I'm going to click on that. I've got a plus down here. I'm going to click that plus. I'm going to add a new device. Now down here you can see we have how to extend your network. So we're going to click on that. Now I think the easiest way to do this is to send somebody home with an unconfigured, Instant On access point. Tell them to plug it into their cable modem router or something like that. Have it bring it up. You could bring it up over cable. You can do it over the air, but you're going to need to have Bluetooth beaconing local. But if they bring it up in their area, we can extend it over the air using a cable, because I'm not local to this new access point I'm adding. So I'm going to extend via cable, and I have this access point is plugged in. Right, I'm going to click continue, and now I'm going to search for my device. And you can see right away another model has come up. It's an AP11D. Right, I'm going to add this device. All right, and in a little bit, it's going to say it's finished. Now, once it's done, I know this is cabled. If you notice, you can see something's popped up over here. Now, I'll click Finish. All right, we can see that we have both access points. And if I go down here, we can see under my inventory, I have two access points. And we can see one is synchronizing. Now, I can actually go over to this new access point, right, and I can unplug it and then bring it somewhere a little bit closer to where I'm having bad wireless signal, and it'll repeat that signal. So this will kind of kill some of the dead spots that you have within an environment. And it's very easy to set up meshing technology. In the past, meshing technology hasn't been for the faint at heart, but as you can see, this makes it very easy and allows us to be able to extend that wireless environment and be able to protect all of us. So I would say that's everything I wanted to show to you. So I think I'll pass this back on over to you, Joshua.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my question screen again here. All right. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and at this point, I'm going to unmute everybody. If you guys have some questions, what you can do is you can either use the chat function, send those questions directly over to us, or if you would like to, you can go ahead and just talk, and we'll go ahead and hear you and answer any of those questions that you have.
Explorer for like my remote access to my Richmond computers.
Okay.
And like one or two web pages that I do some quoting through.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I don't think that was a question. All right, guys, if you have any questions at this point, like I said,
but, Chrome is where.
Somebody had asked if you create an SSID, can you sign in a VLAN of your choice? You could certainly do that if you wish to do that.
And like my Salesforce and our company calendar and stuff like that. And then my Internet Explorer, I use like my carriers and connecting to my Richmond computer so that I can bring up like IMS and whatnot.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that, guys. Looks like we have some people having a little bit of a side conversation. Didn't mean to share that conversation with everybody. I went ahead and just kind of remuted everybody. So let's actually, if you do have some questions, go ahead and throw them into the chat. If you don't have to stay here with us, but I'm just going to hold on for about a minute or two and just see if any of those questions come through the chat and answer those as they come up. All right, I have a question here about the 1930 series. When will those be coming out? I can't tell you the exact date that they will be made available, but what I can say is they will be announced probably in June. Like 99% sure they're going to be announced at the Atmosphere announcement. I just can't really say the details for sure. So very soon, about next month. Great question. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions come through. So I am going to go ahead and end the meeting here, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you got something out of this, and I hope you guys have a wonderful and safe rest of your day.